right? You do not start with your majority color, right? The majority color, everyone goes, well, I'll just paint red and then I'll paint the mortar in. No. Do not do this. Do not do this. We start, like watercolors, backwards forward. So we do the mortar color first. So determine what your mortar color is. The only time you do it in reverse is if for some odd reason your mortar color is excessively dark. Then you have to, someone turn off the stereo.
I'll go.
Totally grooving on the leg, Dan.
Sorry.
Dan's getting distracted. He can't focus on it.
No, my iPod has been picking Talking Heads music all morning long. So I have a feeling we're going to have a Talking Heads day. With the
That's
iPod.
okay with me.
So I think I may just put it on Slippery When Wet or something.
Yeah.
Leave it.
Do it. Yeah.
So.
That's what she said.
All right, so what we have as a base is a scumble of a gray-brown and a medium gray, right? And notice underneath here, though, it's not blended together, so it's cloudy. So you can see the cloudiness of it. You want that. You want a wet blend that's very cloudy, because actually the cloudier you are when you're at the first step, the more variation you see in the brick wall when you get to the last step. And as we progress, you'll see it coming through. So first thing is this wet blend, which Abby did last night. Thank you very much.
Yay!
And then on top of that, we're going to put a spatter. And for the mortar colors, I tend to do a light and a dark spatter.
Back away.
And spattering. Walk away. Why? Unless you want paint all over you.
Well, I'm pretty sure that most of us already have.
Jeanette?
Now, I'm not being, most of the time I'm really anal about getting size correct and getting it very evenly coated. Since we're putting so much brick color on top of it, I'm not as concerned with the size being exactly right, the coverage being complete because of everything else that's going on top of it. So this is a black that's been watered down, and one thing you can do with this is, and I tend to do this, is once you either before or right after you do the first coat, is I spatter some water in with it to let it kind of bleed out a bit. This is just giving us mortar texture. That's all it is. And the colors you spatter will change depending on the mortar colors you're looking at. Again, I'm giving you kind of a generic brick. Be very specific with whichever sources you choose. This is just giving us texture. I usually do a slightly finer grain on the light, so it contrasts, and with the water underneath it, it's going to kind of spread out.
The size of the dots is controlled by how far over your brush goes over your hand?
Well, that and how thick the paint is, and if I have water on the surface or not. But again, for the bricks, I'm not as concerned with that because we're layering all this other stuff on top of it. So I just thought I want a nice texture and a spatter around it. So then we have section 2, right? Dried and complete. You must let the mortar layer dry completely before you touch it with the bricks. Okay. Must.
It is. Did I video that? I'll put it on YouTube. Ooh, guest star, Brandon.
Did anyone mix a purple?
What? No.
Did anyone mix a purple? Need a purple? Ask Dave. Make sure he doesn't need it. And otherwise, it can go to the great beyond.
Purple.
Anyone want a purple? I can use the purple if it's not being used.
Yeah, if it's not being used for anything, good, I'll take it. I'll take purple.
So normally, on these guys, you want to give yourself registration. This one doesn't have what they call registration marks, and they're usually little nicks. Abby, could you give me an exact list? You see registration marks on not only brick, but any kind of stencil that you have to line up repeatedly. And usually what people will do is on the top edge,
Be nice.
Yeah.
This is why they're not going to last very long.
Kid's gonna come around.
They usually look like little arrows.
I think they're different.
Or if you're doing a wallpaper stencil, you'll actually take a little hole punch and punch a hole in them sometimes. What these do is, you can now, you've got this lined up, you can lay in a line across your flat, and I would also put one over here on this edge, right? So you're going to line them up on this edge. Much neater than that. Much neater than that, please. So I can now line them up on that line to keep the bricks straight. Especially important if you're doing an entire wall of bricks, you need to put straight lines across it. Otherwise, you'll tip it a little. You'll tip it a 1/4 inch, and then the next time you lay it down, it'll be a 1/2 inch off. And the next time you lay it down, it'll be 3/4 of an inch off. And by the time you get to the end of your wall, your bricks are doing this.
Oh, that would be cool.
I've seen it happen. It's really scary. Because then the only thing to do is to rebase and start all over
Well,
again.
then you could just say there was an earthquake or something.
It was a choice.
My source was from San Francisco.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend I'm coming from the other direction here, and I'm going to line these up. So, and I did not put registration marks on these because I wanted to show you how they're cut. I'm just going to lay them over. The problem with laying them over existing bricks is there's paint that pools underneath here inevitably, and sometimes these are moist. So if you lay them over the top, sometimes you pick up extra paint. So it's better to use the registration marks, but you can do this as well. So to lay in this color, there's a couple different techniques you can use. And what I did on all of these actually is I started with a sponge. You want to keep your hand on here because it tends to want to bounce. This is thick. If the paint is too thin, it will run underneath your stencil. If the paint is too thick, it will glob on top of the stencil. And you actually want to see a little bit of this mortar texture coming through. It adds to the texture of the brick in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and do a few like this. So you can go ahead and do them all with your sponge.
So we're not like taping that down or anything.
Nope.
Oh, that's dangerous.
You're going to hold it, and then you're going. That's the registration marks. Again, keep your eye on the registration marks as you're doing it, so it doesn't. It's already kind of moving around a little bit on you, but a little bit of movement is okay.
Sure.
Another way you can do this is by using one of your brushes. And you literally can paint in. This has more of a tendency to puddle because you end up jamming the brush underneath there. But if you're light with it, you can treat this almost like a stencil brush and just kind of dab on. We'll see how much it bleeds under when I pull this off. I wouldn't do this a lot with your good lining brushes. Probably get a crappier brush if you're just going to do this.
Yeah.
You can have something bad.
Okay.
It's dangerous.
So you can see where these have kind of
Oh,
puddled.
yeah.
Now, what I tend to do is I'll lay them in with a sponge, and then if any of them look excessively spongy, I'll come back in here and freehand in the sponginess, kind of get it to go away. Right, that's what I've done with this whole corner. So basically, you do one. You lift it up very carefully, not to pool. You move on to the next one. You either line up your registration marks or you line up the last one. Registration marks, again, are more accurate because if you line up the last one and the last one was a 1/4 inch off, guess what?
This one's
Still going to be off.
I'm sorry, I still don't really understand how the registration marks help.
Okay. Actually, would you give me the big framing square? I will show you.